Bedroom, Society of Silence. Chapter 1. Prelude, the first choice. They were not bound. They were not forced. They were simply told, sit, see nothing, and choose. By freshmen, white tank tops, red shorts, bare feet against cold stone. They sat quietly in separate rooms. Blindfolds rested in their laps. In front of each, a small folded piece of paper. The light was soft red. Nothing else existed but the air, the stillness, and the question behind the silence. Each boy opened his paper. Each boy read the same line. Rules of the Red Broom Society. 1. You will not speak of this night. 2. You will not see who touches you. 3. You may say no. 4. If you stay, you commit. 5. In 4 years, if you survive and are chosen again, you will take the other chair. Some trembled. One breathed too fast. One mouthed the rules to himself again and again like a prayer. One reached out into the darkness, not blindly, but curiously. And one boy, only one smiled. Not wide, not proud, just enough to suggest he wasn't afraid. They did not stand. They tied the blindfolds themselves. They had chosen. The myth. They said it didn't exist, not officially, not in school's records, not in the blueprints, not even in the memories of the staff who are trained, or maybe paid, to forget. It was a myth that drifted through whispered conversations, in locked bathrooms and after parties, between bites of stolen kisses and breast laced with alcohol. The Red Room. Not many knew, but they were stories, and though no one believed them, the whispers persisted. The stories weren't the kind you laughed at. They were the kind you didn't repeat out loud. But to the chosen ones, they knew what it meant. It meant that when your final year came, and if your name was on the list, a list no one ever saw, yet everyone feared, you would be summoned. No one knew who made the list, only that it arrived sealed in red wax. No sender, no name, just a mark, a single eye, open and watching. You entered at midnight, alone. You stayed 5 hours. When you came out, you were either different, or you never came out at all. The hallway. 10 doors, 5 left, 5 right. Velvet-lined walls, silence that soaked into skin. At the far end, a full-length mirror. Seamless, still. 5 seniors stood in a line, barefoot, dressed in black slacks and white undershirts, holding silver cards with Roman numerals engraved on them. Leo, sharp as sculpture, dark eyes that devoured praise. His calm was not peace, it was patience. Min, small-framed, hesitant. A faint scar ran beneath his left eye, not quite healed, not quite hidden. Yuki Tanaka, unblinking, unmoving, a stillness that felt less like silence and more like watching. Ethan Rise, easy smile that never reached the eyes, one hand always flexing, always needing to do something. June Park, quiet, observant, sketchbook cradle like it held his breath, eyes too intelligent to be ignored. Only Ethan and June made eye contact. Leo glanced at Ethan, a beat too long, then away. Min looked down at his shoes. Yuki didn't look anywhere. The mirror began to hum, and the doors clicked open. Room 1. Leo. Leo stepped into the red velvet darkness, like a prince returning to a throne he never abdicated. The room was flawless. To the left, a velvet sofa. To the right, a crystal tray of unlabeled liquor bottles, their amber liquid catching the low light. Next to them, 3 glass trays of pills. Leo didn't need any of it, not tonight. He walked forwards, hands behind his back, expression unreadable. The boy sat blindfolded, thighs parted slightly, white tank topped over his chest, red short snug, hands resting obediently on his knees. The boy flinched. Leo smiled. "Good," he whispered. "You're scared." The boy didn't pull away. Leo didn't ask what the boy wanted. He showed him. Room 2. Ethan. The door shut behind him like it sealed off oxygen. Ethan exhaled hard, scanned the room. Red, still, soft. His eyes fell on the boy. Not tight, not panicking, not even pretending to resist. Just seated, calm. His eyes found the ink, a black snake tattoo wrapped tight around the boy's upper arm. It shimmered like oil, looked like it might move if you stared long enough. Ethan crouched, leaned in, licked it. The boy didn't react. "You enjoying this?" Nothing. No sound. Ethan froze. "You like this?" The boy shifted. Only a little, but enough. And that turned him on. Room 3. Yuki. Yuki entered like a ghost given shape. The boy sat in the chair, still waiting. Yuki circled once, knelt in front of him, spoke softly. "You're beautiful. That won't protect you." Then he sat cross-legged on the floor and watched. He didn't blink. Room 4. Min. Min's finger brushed the scar under his eye as he stepped inside. The boy was blindfolded, unmoving. But then, a hand reached down, not pleading, just offered. Min stared at it. "You want me?" The hand didn't pull back. Min lowered himself, knelt, pressed his forehead gently against the boy's chest. "Maybe this time, it won't break me." He didn't move again. Room 5. June. June didn't speak. He moved in slow, deliberate arcs, circling the boy once, then again. On the third pass, he stopped directly behind him, not touching, just listening. The shallow breath, the slight hitch in the throat, the effort to seem unaffected. He sat on the floor, sketchbook in hand. Observe first, break later. The pencil slid softly across the paper, catching the tilt of the head, the twist of the shoulder blade, the glint of sweat on skin. He spoke. "Don't talk." Not a warning, not a rule, just structure. He stood, walked forward, placed his fingers at the hem of the boy's shirt and lifted it slowly. Each inch revealed a line he would later draw. The curve of the ribs. The light hollowed it. The boy shivered, not violently, just enough to register. June folded the shirt neatly and set it beside the chair. "No shame in being seen," he murmured. "Only in hiding something I already know." The boy was aroused. He didn't know why yet. That was what made it beautiful. June watched. Not as a man watching another man. Not even like an artist sketching a body. He watched like the sea watches a storm. Calm, but endless beneath. His pencil moved quickly. Line after line, breath after breath. Stop. The boy froze, shaking. June stood, closed his sketchbook, stepped close. "You're not doing this for me," he whispered. "You're doing this because of me." His voice, soft, silk, against a knife. He kissed the edge of the blindfold just once. You may finish next time. Then left him, trembling, leaking, unsatisfied, exactly how June liked them. 12:30. The chime sounded, soft and echoing. Each senior left their room. The door sealed shut behind them with the soft finality of confession ending. Then click. Hidden seams in the walls opened silently, and the cleaners stepped in. 10 of them, sophomores and juniors, barefoot, masked, dressed in crimson linen robes. No words, no names, no eye contact. Each emerged from an invisible panel behind the freshman's chair, a door that only opens once the seniors are gone. They moved like ritual dancers, each one assigned to a boy, removing blindfolds momentarily to wipe sweat from brows, replacing garments with fresh versions, applying cooling oils to reddened skin, adjusting lighting, repositioning restraints, fluffing the velvet. Only one cleaner whispered, "Next year, you'll wear the gloves." And then the doors sealed again. No trace left. The room perfect once more. The hallway. 5 seniors waited in silence, now barefoot in cold air, shirts slightly wrinkled, eyes reading more than they said. The mirror stood still. Yuki was the first to lean against the wall. He hadn't spoken since they arrived. June sat cross-legged on the floor, flipping through his sketchbook. But he wasn't drawing. Leo catching the reflection of Ethan in the mirror. Ethan didn't look away. Finally, it was Min who broke the silence. Yeah, it was good. 4 pairs of eyes turned towards him. He licked his lips low, like tasting something old on his tongue. June looked up. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You mean," Leo began. Min nodded just once. "Freshman year." I said yes. I stayed. I didn't even know I liked it. Until I couldn't stop. His voice didn't crack, but something in his gaze, something inside the scar under his eye, said he wasn't bragging. He was remembering. Min's flashback. He knelt in the chair, not yet scared. The blindfolded itched. The air was too warm. He didn't expect to wanting anything. He thought he'd flinch, maybe cry, maybe run. But the boy who entered had touched him softly. Hands on his hips, breath in his ear. "You'll forget everything, but the heat." Min remembered nodding. He remembered being guided down. He bit his fist. "Don't stop," he said. It was the first time he ever felt chosen. The other said nothing. Yuki looked at him, not with judgment, just stillness. Ethan broke the silence. "So, you're the one who's done this before?" Min chuckled, bitter. "Didn't make it easier, just made it worse." He stood up. "Wanting it doesn't mean you're ready for it." He turned to face the mirror. Inside it, for just a second, his reflection was smiling. But Min wasn't. The others lingered near the far wall. Min was silent again. Leo sat stretching his neck. Ethan stepped aside. June followed. Not with footsteps, just presence. Suddenly beside him. Ethan didn't turn. He stared at the closed door he knew he walked through again in minutes. "You watched me when we walked out," he said. June said nothing. "You think I don't know that look?" Still silence. Ethan exhaled sharp. "Wasn't like I enjoyed it. He wasn't even reacting." "So what? You're judging me now?" June's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted, like a held breath. "I didn't judge you," he said. "I remembered you Ethan blinked. What the hell does that mean? June stepped closer. Their arms brushed. Their chest almost touched. It means I remember who you are before this place, and I'm trying to figure out who you'll be when it's over. Ethan's jaw clenched. If I'm still here, you mean? A beat. You think I won't make it? June didn't answer. The silence, longer than comfort, shorter than mercy, said everything. Ethan swallowed, laughed once loud. Guess we'll see. June nodded and whispered, I hope I'm wrong. Then the mirror hummed. Red Room. Society of Silence. Chapter 2. The hallway had gone quiet. Behind him, the others had disappeared, one by one, into the rooms they'd been assigned. The air shimmered faintly. A mirror at the end of the hall was humming now, almost gently, like it was remembering something. Min didn't move. He was curious. Because in the glass he saw a face, the face he'd never seen 4 years ago. The boy who had undone him with a whisper, then disappeared like he was never real. The boy was looking at him now, reaching out from the other side of the glass. Min stepped forward. I always wanted to know who you were, he whispered. His fingers touched the surface, and it gave away. Just gone. The mirror returned to stillness. Room 1. June. He doesn't dominate. He doesn't seduce. He witness. The room greeted June exactly as it had before. Still, red, and reverent. The blindfolded freshman was already seated. When he entered, back straight, fists balled in his lap, like he was holding something in. A breath, a memory, a need. June said nothing. He closed the door behind him and placed his sketchbook on the chair, then walked in slow, deliberate arcs around the boy. Not touching, just listening. The air felt thick, not hot, not cold. Like the room had exhaled and wasn't ready to inhale again. On the third pass, he stopped behind the boy, close enough to feel the worms radiating off his back. Still no words. He crouched to retrieve his sketchbook. Then, for the first time in this room, June spoke. Don't pretend to be brave. The boy twitched, only slightly. June smiled without showing it. Lift your shirt. The boy did, hesitant, blindfold still in place. The tank top rose slowly, exposing a trembling rib cage and a soft line of muscle underneath. June knelt in front of him. He didn't touch him yet. The boy shifted, not backward, but forward. Not quite an offering, not quite a plea. June didn't react. He only said, keep your hands where they are, and began to draw. The light hit the boy's skin in perfect arcs. Time passed slowly and deliberately. Finally, when he had finished sketching, June stood. He walked around the boy again, not touching, not teasing, just studying, measuring. He returned to the door. Before leaving, he looked once more, not at the boy, but at the space around him. You may touch yourself after I leave, but don't finish. He opened the door, paused. If you do, I'll know. And then June was gone. The boy sat trembling, unsatisfied, confused, and maybe, just maybe, a little addicted. Room 2. Leo. The worst submission is the one you volunteer for. The room was already warm when Leo entered. The boy was seated, blindfolded, calm, hands placed neatly on his side, his red short perfectly pressed, his white tank top clinking slightly to his chest with the faintest sheen of sweat. Leo shut the door and rolled his shoulder once. His own shirt, thin, ritual white, was already sticking to his back. He dragged a hand down his face. This room felt different. Thick, not in temperature, in expectation. He circled the boy, slow, trying to find what Ethan had seen in him. He made you mow, didn't he? No answer. But the boy's chest rose, just a little. Leo stepped in close. One knee brushed the boy's. Still no reaction. The tension made his skin prickle. What did he do? Leo asked, voice low. Did he make you beg? Did he pin you down? Still nothing. Not even a nod. But Leo was already halfway gone, somewhere between obsession and jealousy. Do it. Do it to me like he did to you, he muttered. It wasn't a command. It was a surrender. That was when the boy moved. Not suddenly. Just with purpose. He stood, silently, and faced Leo, even through the blindfold, like he could see him. His hand rose, slowly, deliberately, to Leo's waist. Leo didn't stop him. Leo raised his arm without thinking. Then the boy dropped to his knees. There was no performance, no ceremony. Firm, certain. Leo gasped, not from the touch, from not being asked. He wasn't being punished. He was being remembered. Each motion echoed Ethan's brutality. It was quieter now, more measured. And that's what made it worse. When it ended, he simply stepped back, adjusted Leo's waistband, sat again, hands folded. Leo turned to face him, still blindfolded, as if nothing had happened. Room 3. Ethan. Control was never the point. He just didn't know how to be touched. The door shut softly behind him. Ethan stood there, a little longer than necessary. The freshman inside wasn't who he expected. Smaller, softer looking, blindfolded like the elders, seated calmly, his hand folded in his lap. He looked like he had a mood since being placed. Ethan blinked. No heat, no fire, just stillness. He approached. The boy didn't react. Not like last time. The one who'd gone stiff and silent until Ethan forced a sound out of him. This one just breathed. He didn't say anything. And then, the boy leaned forward. Slowly, carefully, like he was trying to understand Ethan's shape through the air alone. Ethan didn't stop him. A hand brushed his knee. A palm rested on his thigh. Because this time, he wanted to be touched without question. He didn't hide the boy, didn't speak. Ethan closed his eyes. There was no performance, no manipulation, just presence. The boy tilted his head, as if listening. but Ethan has left the room. Room 4. Yuki Tanaka. Stillness isn't surrender. It's calculation. Yuki entered the room like a shadow. No noise, no wasted movement. Just the sound of the door latching softly behind him, and his bare feet crossing the cool floor. The freshman sat in the chair like the rest. Tent top pressed flat, red shorts folded perfectly at the knee, blindfold secured. Still patient, probably rehearsing fear. Yuki didn't speak. He didn't touch the tray of objects by the wall. He didn't glance at the couch. He walked forward, stood directly in front of the boy, and crouched. The air between them crackled with a silence too heavy to be called peace. Yuki raised one hand. 2 fingers touched the boy's knee. The boy twitched. Not enough to retreat, just enough to register. Yuki tilted his head, examining the fabric, the line of the skin, the place where body meets restraint. "Lift your shirt," he said, a whisper, almost disappointed. The boy obeyed. Yuki watched. "Lower it." The boy complied. "Turn." The chair squeaked slightly as the boy turned his back. Yuki stepped behind him, ran 2 fingers up the curve of the spine through the cotton tank. Still nothing, still no mark. He crouched again. Yuki exhaled almost silently. "Not you," he whispered. He stepped back, left the shorts where they were, walked down the door. Before leaving, he glanced once more, not at the boy, but at his own reflection in the mirror mounted on the wall. It didn't move, but Yuki's own voice echoed softly as he left. Yuki left the room with his face unreadable. At the end of the corridor, the mirror pulsed once, just once, a barely visible ripple along its surface, like someone had breathed against it from the other side. Yuki stared at it. No one was watching him, and yet the mirror felt like it was. He stepped toward it. The hum grew deeper, as if resonating with something inside him, something he hadn't given permission to be found. His hand lifted, almost against his will. He touched the surface. It rippled, and then it pulled. His body lurched forward, his heels dragging. His hand clawed at the edge of the frame. But the mirror was stronger. It didn't rip him in. It invited him so completely. His residence came too late. His scream twisted into a silent shape behind the glass. His face, for a single, searing moment, was reflected in perfect clarity. Eyes wide, mouth open, fingers reaching. Then he was gone. The mirror stilled, but no one ever heard him. Room 5. The boy who waited. The chair was cold. The freshman in room 5 had sat still for as long as he could. At first, he thought it was part of the game, part of the anticipation. But as minutes passed, and passed, and passed, he realized no one was coming. But when the silence got too loud, he folded and curled into himself and waited for something to break the silence. Nothing did. Red Room, Society of Silence, Chapter 3. The mirror hums louder. It had started softly, like breath behind glass. But now the mirror was humming again, louder. The hallway pulsed with it. 3 seniors remained. 3 cards. 3 doors. 2 were already gone. The red room was no longer pretending to wait. Room 1. Waiting freshmen. The hallway was silent. Behind the first door, no senior. Just a boy waiting in the room. The boy sat still. No one came. No footsteps. No echo. No hum. He smiled, relieved. For once, not being chosen was freedom. He leaned his head back and breathed. Room 2, June. The sketchbook was open, the pencil in his hand. June moved like he always did, smooth, deliberate. Just detached enough to study without being drawn in. He sketched hundreds of bodies, dozens of vases, but never his own. Not out of vanity, out of fear. But this time, the boy moved first. He reached up, grabbed the sketchbook, and stepped forward. June blinked. He never gave it up, but his fingers let go. The freshman turned him around, guided him gently, pushed him to sit on the velvet sofa. His shirt lifted. He wasn't restrained, wasn't commended, just observed. The freshman began to draw, not with hesitation, with reverence. June sat back, breath uneven, eyes wide. June looked down, trembling. The sketchbook was handed back, still warm, still open. June turned towards the mirror, whispered, "Is this what you wanted?" The mirror did not answer, but it didn't hum either. For June, it simply watched. Room 3, Leo. And while the mirror watched June, another door clicked open. The freshman didn't know how long he'd been sitting. Time didn't work here, not inside these red walls. His blindfold itched. His shorts clung to his thighs. He couldn't tell if it was sweat or just fear. No instructions, no footsteps, just a mirror. Humming on the other side of the wall. He couldn't see it, but he could feel it. He sat up straight, shoulders tense, knees close. Not for readiness, from restraint. Leo entered, slow, deliberate. He didn't rush to the boy, didn't speak. Instead, he stood at the edge of the room, hands clenched behind his back, eyes tracing the lines of the freshman's body, like he was trying to see something Ethan left behind. The boy sat still, blindfolded, barely breathing, but Leo saw it. He moved closer, not to dominate, not yet, to compare. The boy was untouched. At least, it looked that way. But something about the way he held still, like he was waiting for déjà vu, made Leo's stomach knot. He crouched, one hand resting on his own knee, close enough to feel the heat of the boy's skin. He didn't know why it made him angry, but it did. Quietly, more to the silence than to the boy. What did Ethan do to you? No response. Just breath. And stillness. Leo's jaw tightened. The calm burned. He stepped in. The boy's scent hit him. Faint oil. Sweat. Like a lab. Something in Leo's stomach flipped. He remembered. He remembered not the room, not this red silence, but 3 winters ago. The campus was half dead over break. Leo liked it that way. Less noise, fewer eyes, just him, and whatever didn't want to be found. He stopped by the camp building that night. He knew Ethan had a lab key. Everyone knew Ethan was pre-med, biocamp, dead serious about it. Top scores, no distractions. But that night, Leo had seen the lights on in the lower labs. He wasn't snooping, not at first. Then he heard something, soft, not words, just breath. He moved to the side window, didn't enter, just watch. Ethan was alone, sitting on the floor in front of an open drawer, hands cradling a photo. A man, shirtless, sun too bright behind him. Ethan stared at it like it hurt to look. Then, wiped a tear, quick. Leo didn't move, didn't breathe too loud. He just watched Ethan do what Ethan never did in front of other people. It only lasted a second, but Leo never forgot. Because it wasn't the control that drew him in. It was the glitch, the proof that Ethan wasn't built different. He was just good at hiding the cracks. Back in the room, the boy leaned forward. No. A slap. Not cruel, just breaking. Forced him down onto the couch, eyes wide, blindfold tight. He hesitated, just for breath, but he needed to feel something real. Pressed one hand to his throat, and he moved forward, rough with need. Held the throat the entire time. When he pulled away and saw the boy's face, his hand lifted. The neck was slack, the body limp. The mirror hummed, louder than it ever had, a deep, low growl from the wall. Leo backed away, stumbled, opened the door, and ran. He didn't make it far. 2 figures in crimson robes waited in the hallway. Cleaners. Silent, expressionless. They didn't grab him, just walked forward, until he had no choice but to turn back. They closed the door behind him. A thin line of blood slid out from under the door. Inside the room, there was no scream, no thrashing, no pleading, just a final click. Then the silence boomed. The mirror didn't shatter, it shimmered, like breath fogging on cold glass. Then, 2 faces, side by side. One slack-jawed, one wide-eyed. Both caught in the precise instant between knowing and regret. And on the floor, outside the frame, Just a line, still red, still moving. Room 4. Ethan. He didn't look at the boy, didn't speak, didn't approach. Ethan sat by the side table, poured himself a drink. Dark amber, no label. Then another, for the boy. Then another, and another. The freshman drank because he was told to. Ethan didn't watch him, didn't touch him, just kept pouring. He raised his glass towards the boy. Even the boy couldn't see. Then drank, alone. The hum returned. He stood up, left his glass, didn't look back. He walked to the door, opened it, and paused. The mirror was waiting, just watching. He shut the door behind him. Inside the room, the boy lay slumped, unconscious, maybe worse. On the table, Ethan's half-finished drink. The cleaners behind the wall. The walls whispered behind velvet. A seamless door slid open sideways, revealing a narrow corridor lit by faint red floor glow. 5 pairs of crimson-robed figures stood silently. They didn't speak, except one. The red-haired boy stepped forward. 3 down, he whispered. The youngest looked up, expression unreadable. The red-haired boy stepped into a scene. The others followed, vanishing 1 pair at a time. Room 5. The one who waited. 2 hours. No touch, no voice, still no one. When the door opened, it wasn't a senior. It was a cleaner. 2. They studied him, checked his eyes, straightened his clothes. The door closed. The boy sat alone, silent. The hallway. 2 people stepped out. June and Ethan. June holds a sketchbook, the one the freshman handed back. He hasn't fully looked, not until now. As they stepped into the hush of the corridor, he glances down and sees himself. Beside him, Ethan walks in silence. He glances sideways. June is staring at the sketchbook, like it's a mirror he's not ready to face. Ethan stepped closer, just enough to see the drawing. June snaps the book shut, too fast. Ethan raises an eyebrow, almost says something, but doesn't. The silence stretches, not uncomfortable, just alert. Red Room, Society of Silence. Chapter 4. The Hallway. Only 2 cards remain, 2 doors, and for the first time in hours, neither opens right away. Ethan leans against the wall near room 5, not pacing, not impatient, just waiting. June arrives seconds later. His sketchbook is closed, fingers brushing the covers like it itches. They lock eyes, too long. Ethan speaks first, calm, unreadable. You don't look tired. June shrugs. You don't look surprised. I'm not. Silence settles, not cold, but practiced. June glances towards the sealed doors. His voice low. 3 hours. 2 left. Ethan without turning. Silence always wins. June steps a little closer. Not intimate. Just closer. You always like that part. The hush. The rules. You liked breaking them. Something flickers. Not quite a smile. Not quite a wound. June tilt his head. Think they knew it be us? Ethan doesn't pause. They always knew. Then, a chime. Down the corridor, a cleaner appears. Silent, waiting. June starts walking. As he brushes past Ethan, he murmurs, "Don't die in that room." Ethan watches him go, then answers just loud enough, "Don't vanish in yours." The doors open. Room 1 and 2. Room 1 stayed quiet. The longer the silence stretched, the more certain he became. He had been spared. But room 2 was no longer holding back. The door opened, not for a senior, for 2 crimson-robed figures. Inside, the boy was already standing, as if the mirror had given him instructions no one else could hear. One cleaner stepped forward. No clipboard, no question. Just a folded robe placed gently into his hands. The second cleaner spoke, barely above a whisper. "The mirror's finished with you." No hesitation. As he passed between them, a spiral of ink, coiled and delicate, like a secret that had always known its timing. Not a mark of punishment, a mark of completion. He didn't speak, didn't turn. But as the robe slipped over his shoulders, one cleaner murmured, so soft it was almost a breath, "It remembers who served." And just like that, he stepped beyond the threshold. Not vanished, released. The hallway held its breath. And the mirror stayed very, very still. Room 3, June. The door cracked open, slow, like breath drawn through teeth. June stepped inside. Room 3 no longer smelled like skin or sweat. The mirror hum. No grief left hanging in the velvet. Just bleach. 2 crimson-robed figures stood inside. One adjusted the couch cushions with clinical care. The other wiped the last crimson trace from the corner of the floor. Each motion practiced, unflinching. June didn't speak, didn't ask what had happened. He already knew. One cleaner looked up, met his gaze, and nodded once. This room no longer remembers. The second gestured silently toward the hallway. Follow. He did, not because he was told, but because something in him was too hollow now to refuse. The door opened before they touched it. One cleaner step aside, voice low and certain. This one still holds something. Then they left. June stood alone at the threshold, sketchbook in one hand, control in the other, both slipping. And as he stepped forward, memory opened wider than the door. 4 years earlier, before there were robes, before silence grew teeth, there were 5 boys. White tank tops, red shorts, too much curiosity. The room was smaller back then. Or maybe they were just younger. The same velvet, the same mirror, but less knowing. They stood in a loose circle. June, Ethan, Min, Leo, and Yuki, each pretending this was just some test. Leo laughed nervously, the sound a little too loud. Yuki chimed in, voice flat. Secret society, maybe. I heard the student council president did this first. Ethan frowned. He was already analyzing. Yeah. Then where's the hazing? No beer cans, no screaming. Just velvet. Min spoke quietly, eyes flicking toward the mirror. I don't like the humming. They all paused. Then, as if summoned, the hum returned. Soft, deep, felt more in the chest than in the ears. June didn't speak. He just stared at the mirror, like he already suspected the truth. Like part of him already knew what he became. One by one, they signed the invitation cards. No confetti, no ceremony, just ink. A moment too quiet. Then, they lifted the blindfolds. Min was the first to slip his on. Then Yuki, then Leo, then Ethan. June took the longest, but when he tied it tight. Room 4, June. The door sealed behind him. Soft, certain, absolute. Room 4 exhaled a heavier silence. Not emptiness, but aftermath. The room reeked faintly of alcohol. He crossed the room and sat in the sofa. The sketchbook was still open in his hand, the page still warm. At the vision of himself, captured by someone else's. His hand traced the page. His belt loosens. Instinct, not performance. One hand on paper, the other slipping lower. Just the quiet catching up to him. Then he stops, because the mirror shimmers. No hum, no glow, just awareness. And in that silence, he whispers, not to the boy, to himself. I didn't think I could still be drawn. The cleaners in the hallway. 2 crimson row figures glide past room 4. The other leans in, voice low. They all been touched now. The younger glances back. No retouch needed. The other listens, not to the sound, but something deeper. Another pause. What happens when 2 remember? The younger asks. They'll make space for only one to walk out, the other replies. They move on, toward the last door. Quiet door. Room 5, Ethan. The door shuts behind him. Soft, final. Ethan steps into the velvet-drenched quiet. The boy is there, exactly as he was 2 hours ago. Blindfolded, and still. But not afraid. There's no brace, no tension. Ethan watches, longer than he means to. Because this boy, he didn't resist, didn't obey, didn't flinch, or fold or perform. He just existed, like the room itself. Ethan kneels, not because he must, because he doesn't know how else to begin. Then contact. Gentle, steady, human. The boy exhales. Not relief, not submission. Just acknowledgement. Ethan shifts closer, not looming, but leaning, letting his body shape to the voice. The couch groaned softly beneath them. Their knees touch. His hand brushes the boy's ribs. Bare, warm, and breathing. And something inside Ethan, the part that used to be all tease and control, goes still. No whispers, no orders, no games. He closes his eyes, and for the first time in hours, he doesn't want to win. He just wants to be forgiven. He doesn't say it, but the boy's stillness answers anyway. Ethan exhales, slow, unguarded. 4 years earlier. Back then, the red room was colder, brighter, before the velvet soaked up everything. The ritual had ended. White blindfolds tossed aside, tank tops wrinkled, knees aching from velvet floors. Ethan remembered sitting alone, shoulders against a far wall, trying to breathe normal again, trying to act like it hadn't changed him. Min was curled up in the corner, arms around his knees, not crying, just still. Leo and Yuki were silent too, staring at their hands like the answers were supposed to be written there. But it was June. Ethan watched. Ethan hated him for that calm. Or maybe envied it. He reached out, just a brush of fingers against June's arm. Nothing dramatic, nothing staged, just real. June looked down at the touch, then up, smiled. And in that second, Ethan understood something he couldn't admit back then. That June hadn't been calm. He'd been holding it in. And Ethan had wanted to be one to break him. Not violently, not cruelly, just deeply. Back then he didn't have the words, didn't have the mirror to show him, didn't have the boy in this room now, teaching him what Kanzen actually feels like. Now, he exhales again, still rustling against the boy's shoulder, still unspeaking, but different, because the past was gone. And tonight, it was finally catching up. The corridor. June steps out of room 4. The sketchbook clutched tight to his chest, closed this time. His hands shake, just slightly. Down the corridor, Ethan exits room 5. He doesn't look shaken, but he's not steady either. He walks slower than usual, like the room left something inside him he's still trying to name. They lock eyes across the hallway. Not close, not far. June speaks first, dry, quiet. You still leave the glass half full. Ethan stops, the faintest twitch of a smile. You used to finish it for me. Their gazes hold. No footsteps, no movement. Just breath, shallow and deliberate. June lowers his eyes first, then glances at the mirror. You think it's choosing? Ethan follows his gaze. It already did. A pause. Then June's voice softer now. 4 years ago. You think it saw us. Ethan doesn't blink. It never stopped. Their hands don't reach. Their feet don't step forward. And somewhere behind the velvet, the mirror listens. Red Room, Society of Silence, Chapter 5, The Final Name. The mirror didn't hum anymore. It breathed. A breast that filled the corridor, pressing against velvet, skin, and the stone walls that have been seen too much. The hour of ending had come. No more choices. No more illusion of control. Where once there were 5, now only 2 remained. And the mirror was no longer watching. It was remembering. The hallway. The air was heavier now. Ethan stood at the edge of room 1's door. His hands were too still. His eyes fixed ahead, seeing more than he wanted to. At the far end, June stood near room 5, sketchbook clutched to his side like a relic. Skin cooling, breath shallow. Their gaze met across the velvet hush, not accusing, only understanding. Neither spoke. What was left to say? Then a sound, and the mirror exiled again. June's voice came first, soft, as if afraid to break the air. Last hour. Ethan nodded, voice low, dry. The room's already decided. A pause, not of hesitation, but recognition. June took a slow step forward, not toward Ethan, not toward any door, just closer to the truce, hanging between them. You still think we're walking out of this? Ethan's mouth twitched, not a smile, a memory of one. We're already inside it. The doors unlatched, 2 at once, and the mirror, patient, endless, waited for the final breath. Room 1, Ethan. The door sealed behind him, soft, final, certain. Velvet swallowed the sound, the doubt, the hesitation. The boy was waiting, blindfolded. He thought it would be another empty hour. No footsteps, no touch. His guard had slipped. His hand moved, reaching, not pleading, not inviting, just tired of the dark. That small human gesture cracked something in the Ethan. He stepped forward, slow, let his hand hover over the boy's, and then contact. Fingers brushing, palms aligning. The boy exhaled, soft, like relief that didn't expect to be heard. Ethan knelt. His breath quickened. His hand tightened over the boy's. You're my price, he thought, but didn't say. He moved closer. His other hand traced the boy's throat, jaw, the edge of the blindfold. The boy didn't flinch, didn't lean, just stayed. That steadiness unraveled Ethan. His mouse found the boy's throat, not to hurt, to taste. Slow at first, then harder. Marking skin with breath, with tongue, with need. His hand moved down, deliberate. And there, in the hush of the room, he took, not cruel, not tender. Like victory earned, like proving to himself he could. When it was over, when he pulled back, breathless, spent, he felt it. The win, the proof, the claim. The freshman beneath him had folded just enough, had given him the reaction he craved. And yet, it wasn't enough. It tasted thin. It tasted old. It tasted like everything the mirror had been feeding him, but nothing he actually needed. He stepped back, fixed his clothes, left the boy as he found him. Flashback. The beach, 4 years ago. The salt air, the way the sun made June's skin glow, gold, fragile. June laughing, breathless. I can't, Ethan said. Not cruel, not cold, just done. June's smile faltered. What do you mean? Ethan looked at him, really looked. The men who saw him, the men who drew him. And that was the problem. June didn't reach for him, didn't beg. He just sat in the sand, like the tide had already pulled him under. The photo, the one Leo once saw, was taken right after. Rooms 2, 3, and 4. The rooms that remembered nothing. Room 2 opened first. Inside, nothing. No boy, no breath, no waiting. Velvet undisturbed. A chair offered, but never claimed. Stillness so complete it felt unnatural. 2 crimson-robed cleaners stepped in. Their feet made no sound. One paused in the doorway, listening for a trace of heat, of breath, of anything. The other moved to the center, adjusted a cushion that didn't need straightening, smoothed fabric that hadn't been touched. They left together. The door closed behind them, a click that felt like a sigh. Room 3's door creaked open like an old confession. The air smelled faintly of bleach, of steel, of memory too carefully wiped clean. 2 more crimson shapes entered. "This room remembers nothing," one said, as if speaking had made it true. The other lingered by the mirror, watched their blurred shaping glass that reflected nothing back. The room was perfect again. Too perfect. They left. The door shut. The lock turned. Room 4. The room that hadn't decided what to forget. The air was heavy. Stale was drink. Sour was carelessness. The boy was still there. Red short loosened, lips parted, breasts shallow. 2 cleaners approached. One touched his wrist, counted beats. Alive. The other lifted his hand gently, wiped his brow with a cloth that smelled of clean things. Things the room had long lost. Together they helped him stand, his feet on shore, his body plaint, adrift between sleep and memory. They led him through the hidden door, the one only cleaners knew, that swallowed boys whole and sped out no question. One of the cleaners glanced back at the glass on the table, at the shadow of the couch. "It's easier to clean," he said softly, "than to take the chair." No reply. They straightened what's left. The door sealed, the lock engaged. A final click, sharp as a closing eye. And the light went out. Room 5. June. The door closed behind him, soft, sure. The velvet seemed thicker. Heavy was memory. Heavy was everything June had tried to control. The boy waited, blindfolded, still, not braced, not folded, just waiting. June froze, sketchbook in one hand, control in the other, both slipping. He stepped forward, slow, deliberate, until he could feel the boy's breath between them. He didn't touch him, didn't speak. Then June lifted his gaze to the mirror. It watched. It always watched. And for the first time he asked, a whisper, a plea he hadn't meant to make, "Will you let him draw me?" The mirror shimmered. June's fingers trembled as he untied the blindfold on the boy. The cloth felt soft as pressed into the boy's lap. The boy blinked, adjusting not to light, but to possibility. Flashback. 4 years ago. June hadn't meant for it to get this far. The kiss was too fierce, too hungry. The cup of pencils clattered to the floor, and the sketchbook, the one he'd been working on before Ethan arrived, slipped. The pages fell open, spilling across the floor. June froze. He saw Ethan's gaze drop, Ethan crouched, hand reaching for the page like he found treasure. You drew me. His voice was low, almost gentle, and that made it worse. June's hands moved fast, sweeping the drawings into a pile. His fingers shook. Can I draw you? June looked up, and the word was out before he could stop it. Sharp, final. No. Later, June would remember this night. How Ethan had looked at him, like he was something to be understood. How the sketches on the floor had felt like confessions he had meant to make. And how saying no had felt like the only way to survive that moment. But also the start of losing Ethan, in ways that would haunt him long after. June placed a sketchbook in his hands. I don't want to hold it anymore. No command, no seduction, just truth. The boy raised the pencil. Steady, sure. June sat down, took off his shirt, let himself be seen. The pencil moved. June felt it. The rise, the warmth, the heat, not from touch, from being seen. When the boy offered the sketchbook back, June stared at it. There he was, not the June he tried to control, the June that room had always seen, undone, aroused, human. And still, it wasn't enough. The hallway. The doors to room 5 close behind June. From the far end, room 1's door opened. Ethan stepped out, slower than he meant to, like each step cost him more than he expected. Their eyes met, and for a moment, they both thought they'd be the last. June looked at him. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he couldn't hide the break in his eyes. A bitter half-smile. I saw it. You let him draw you. Is that how you win now? June didn't flinch, didn't argue. No, he said, and this time, his voice was almost gentle. I just stopped hiding. Ethan's breast caught, like he hated how much that landed. And then, the space between them vanished. June's hands gripped Ethan's shirt, fingers curling tight in the fabric as their kiss deepened, like trying to undo 4 years of silence in a single moment. Ethan's hand trembled at June's sides, not from passion, from everything he hadn't said, everything he thought he buried. And then June broke the kiss. Just enough to look at him, to really look at him. Ethan's eyes. They weren't hungry anymore. And with that, he pushed Ethan back. Ethan's shoulders hit the mirror, like the room itself was catching him. And for a breathless second, both of them stared at that reflection. Ethan's eyes, wide, with horror. The kind that comes too late. The kind that sees what's been done and knows it can't be undone. And the mirror, it took it all in. It fed, silent and patient. Because this was what it had been waiting for. The campus, 9 in the morning. Students moved in clusters, backpacks swinging, voices loud. Among them walked a boy, dark curls unruly from sleep, skin sun-warmed. His feature bore the soft angles of the Middle East, brows knit in thought, mouth set as if holding back a question he hadn't dared to ask. He moved slower than the rest, not lost, just listening, as if word was telling a story only he could hear. His gaze flickered across the quad. Men, Beneath the oak, a sandwich untouched, staring at nothing, as if his hunger had been replaced by memory. Yuki, on the library steps, a book open in his lap, but his eyes miles beyond the pages, watching for what no one else could see. And then, two seniors passed nearby, Ethan among them. His shirt was rumpled, as if he'd dressed in a hurry. The friend walked close, voice lowered but urgent. "You hear about it yet?" Ethan didn't look at him. "About what?" "The crash, early this morning. Out past the main road. They're saying Leo. Freshman." A pause. Ethan's stride faltered, just slightly. "Dead?" he asked, voice careful, too careful. His friend hesitated. "No one's saying it, but yeah." The boy, the one watching, slowed his steps. He didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the words clung to him. Crash. Dead. Ethan didn't speak again, just kept walking, faster now. His friend followed. Later, the boy we've been following closed his dorm room door, peeled off his shirt, and there it was. A folded card. The red wax cracked. The seal mark was a single, watching eye. You stayed. Through the first choice, through every room, through the final hour. Thank you for stepping inside. This had been Red Broom, Society of Silence.
5 names, 5 doors.